Thanks for joining us here this afternoon. I'm Drew Carney, and we do start here with breaking news in Northeast Portland, where police say a man was stabbed and killed at a hotel. Ashley Grams is covering this story for us. She's live there along Airport Way. So, Ashley, what can you tell us?
For the past few hours, we've watched officers coming and going through the front doors of Sojourn Suites, and police say that this happened inside of the hotel and the investigation is ongoing. You can see where they've parked that mobile command unit there underneath that overhang. Police tell us they responded to the hotel just after 8 this morning. When they arrived with paramedics, they found a man dead. So far, no arrests have been made. Police say the suspect or suspects left the hotel, and they're still trying to track down anyone who might have been involved. We did talk with a woman who stayed at the hotel last night. She said she had no idea anything was going on until she saw all the officers inside.
And as we walked out, I was like, oh, something is going on. It's not just like a domestic disturbance or something like that. I was like, there's a lot of people here, so.
Portland police say this is the 7th homicide this month and 10th homicide of the year. We do expect to hear more about this from Portland Police Chief Bob Day later this afternoon. Drew?
All right, Ashley Grams live for us this afternoon in Northeast Portland. We now know who was named in a settled sexual harassment lawsuit against Nike. Unredacted documents show the names involved in the 2018 suit include some high-profile employees, including Tinker Hatfield, who designed many of Nike's Air Jordan sneakers. The lawsuit accused Hatfield of making sexually explicit comments to a female employee. Another complaint says he was seen engaging in sexual acts with a lower-ranking employee on Nike's campus. We reached out to Hatfield's attorneys but didn't hear back. They previously told the Oregonian that these claims came from unsubstantiated and unverified anonymous surveys. In a statement, Nike said, in 2018, Nike conducted a large-scale investigation in response to the reports received from employees, including those who responded to an anonymous employee-created survey, and we took corrective action where appropriate. Now, we learned about Hatfield's involvement after a court of appeals sided with local media outlets like the Portland Business Journal, who challenged redactions in this suit. We also talked to Demi Lawrence, a reporter at the Portland Business Journal who's covered this case for years.
This isn't about taking sides. It's not necessarily even about justice or retribution or anything. It's just making sure people know what's happening and what's been alleged and how this company that influences a lot of things within the city and region is responding to those allegations.
We embedded the full unredacted court documents from this case in the online version of this story at KGW.com. All right, a break from our news headlines to check in with Rod Hill. Rod, we saw the first 2 days of spring with lots of snow up on Mount Hood, and we're talking about lots of rain here in the valley this weekend.
Yeah, your afternoon. Well, today lots of rain. Remember, Drew, the weekend is going to be significantly drier, but today it's going to continue to be a very rainy afternoon. We are seeing the back edge of what we're getting, but it's still a ways back to our west. Here it is on Doppler radar. Snow over the Cascades, but so far the passes have been holding near to above freezing and they're just wet. So it has not been a bad travel day up over the mountains. We'll show you those conditions coming up in just a bit. You can see some drying up here around Astoria and Chehalis. So all of this is going to continue to move through our area. Somewhere in the 5 o'clock hour right now is where the timing shows we start to really dry out. For your evening, by the way. So far, look at Tillamook. Last 2 days, over 2 inches of rain has come down. Salem, almost an inch. Portland, PDX, kind of in a dry hole in terms of the rain gauge, only showing 22 100, 77 100s up in Kelso. Here is the rain and the clouds from our Lincoln City Schnookwan's Casino Resort camera. 49 degrees there, raining over the West Hills. Seeing quite a few people out, though, with their umbrellas walking around, enjoying a day at the zoo. 46 is the number up in the West Hills. Portland will be near 50 for the remainder of this afternoon. Again, as we go into the evening, the steady rain is over and the pattern goes scattered. Maybe it's dry where you are this evening. Your complete weekend forecast is coming up.
All right, more from Rod here in about 10 minutes. Right now, we want to get back to some local headlines. People in Portland's South Tabor neighborhood say safety improvements along a stretch of Southeast Powell Boulevard are long overdue. Earlier this month, an 86-year-old man was hit and killed by a motorcycle while trying to cross Powell near Southeast 67th after getting off a TriMet bus. Neighbors said Roger Lee was on his way home from a Blazers game the night he was killed. Police say there's evidence that suggests the motorcyclist did try to slow down before he hit Lee. The South Tabor neighborhood says it's looking to put pressure on all agencies involved with this stretch of Southeast Powell between 52nd and 82nd Avenue.
There's projects that are funded that haven't been completed, safety studies that haven't been done. So we're trying to come together as a community and figure out how we can stop this from happening.
Yeah, it's worse at night because it's really dark. So in the city, I think that they need to do something because people get killed like a week ago.
ODOT called Lee's death a tragedy and says it's committed, along with the city of Portland and TriMet, to making this busy stretch of road safe for all users. In Marion County, the sheriff's office arrested an 18-year-old who's accused of shooting a man in Woodburn. Eduardo Rodriguez Castillo faces several charges, including attempted murder and unlawful use of a weapon. According to investigators, the shooting happened around 5 o'clock last night. The man who was shot was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The sheriff's office later found and arrested the 18-year-old suspect in Salem. Anyone with information about this shooting should contact Woodburn Police. President Trump has signed an executive order to begin the process of dismantling the U.S. Department of Education. Keep in mind, it would take an act of Congress to fully eliminate the department. Still, the CEO of Disability Rights Oregon says he's concerned about how this move could impact students with disabilities.
If the Department of Education were to be eliminated, there would be some real backsliding. States know that then there is nobody watching them, and they're going to start to walk back some of their own action.
President Trump is on the record saying his order will not impact financial aid or resources for students with disabilities, saying Pell Grants, Title I funding, and resources for kids with special needs will be fully preserved and redistributed to other departments. Other moves by President Trump to cut federal spending are also causing some local concern when it comes to Medicaid. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek talked to KGW about just how much the state relies on Medicaid benefits under the Oregon Health Plan. About a third of Oregon's population and roughly half the children in the state rely on Medicaid. The current congressional budget calls for the House committee overseeing Medicaid to cut more than $880 billion over the next decade.
This would be devastating. And my message is, I'm not going to anticipate it. I just don't want them to touch it because it is not the right thing to do.
Would the state be able to step in and make up for that lack of funding?
To be honest, if we don't have a strong federal partnership with Medicaid and to help us fund the Oregon Health Plan, we would have to make cuts.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it. This is a partnership with the federal government that we are able to perform because they are doing their part with taxpayer dollars from Oregonians.
You can watch that full sit-down interview with Governor Kotek on this week's edition of Straight Talk. It airs Sunday night at 6:30 and again on Monday night at 7 o'clock. You can also watch it anytime on our free TV app, KGW+. All right, a major delay is on the way for the earthquake-ready Burnside Bridge project. Multnomah County announced just today that construction won't start until 2028. That's a year later than planned. Officials say they need more time now to refine the design and also to try and save some costs with ongoing uncertainty about federal funding. The nearly century-old bridge is being replaced with a new one that can withstand a major earthquake. The most recent design plans show wider bike and pedestrian paths and improvements for public transit. When construction starts, the existing bridge will be demolished. That means no Burnside crossing over the Willamette River for several years. The project's expected completion is now set for sometime after 2031. Next up here, a live look from our Providence Park Skycam. The Portland Thorns are going to take the field there tonight for their 2025 home opener. They lost their season opener last weekend on the road, so maybe some home cooking can make the difference. We were there for yesterday's practice as the Thorns put the finishing touches on their game plan for tonight. They are dealing with a totally different roster from a year ago, and some key players are dealing with injuries. So in other words, their general manager says this squad has its fair share of challenges.
Those players are irreplaceable, not just for the Portland Thorns, but for the game. And we really believe that the players that are there today now have an opportunity to step up. This really opens the door for those types of players.
Tonight's game kicks off at 7 o'clock at Providence Park.